Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am your host, Data T, and this is my channel, The Good Guys. Guys, today we are going to add another article to the Anti-Gunner Chronicles, and it will again be from the Trace. They provide lots of content against the Second Amendment and so many things that are guns, and we're going to go through this article. Again, we'll go through its entirety, and I'll go over some of the links, and I want you guys to sit back and relax and listen to this story and listen to my counterpoints and from what I disagree with. Before we do that, guys, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like, leaving a comment, subscribe. Remember, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and let's get there together. And you guys can always hit me on Minds on Twitter and even on Truth Social. So let us get into this story. Let us dive in, and I will read it in its entirety. So it starts. New York bill seeks to make lockdown drills less traumatic for students. It says here, lawmakers and parent activists say that requiring 4 drills a year is excessive. Now, guys, I will say, in my opinion, I think there should be more drills on lockdowns, on active shooters, on tornadoes, whatever it may be. So we know what to do. So it becomes second nature. And so people don't panic. We need them. But if we are going to continue to, I would call, the pussification of children and making them soft, they won't learn anything. And I think there should be more drills. Even there should be classes on how to use a firearm. There should be self-defense classes. There should be even classes on how to apply a tourniquet, how to patch a bullet wound. I think they should be there. They should be in these schools. If we know an active shooter, we know these issues are continually to happen into our schools, they should be there. So let us get into the story, into the article. I'm going to start. It says here, amid mounting criticism of active shooter drills in schools as ineffective and often traumatic, New York lawmakers are taking steps to reduce their frequency. A bill introduced into the state legislature in April 26 would limit the number of mandatory lockdown drills to 1 per year, down from the 4 that are currently required. The measure would also require schools to notify families a week in advance of a lockdown drill and give them the option to opt out. Now, if we look at the bill here, okay, this is a bill relates to the frequency and implementation of lockdown drills in the school. So I guess it's in committee, that from what it says here. All right, it's still got a ways to pass. But I don't think this is a particularly smart thing to do. 4 times a year and then you make it 1? How does that benefit anybody? I mean, what's the cause? What's the reason? Let's find out. It says here, we're basically normalizing a reality in which kids go to school and expect to be slaughtered. The bill sponsor, State Senator Andrew Gurnanz, told The Trace it's really burdensome and traumatizing for kids, and it's ineffective. How is it ineffective if we teach them how to run, hide, fight, some of the things that I mentioned earlier that they could implement in these schools. I don't see why that would be traumatic. Okay. It says here, New York is one of 42 states that require public schools to conduct at least one lockdown or shelter in place drill for students during the school year, according to an analysis of state laws and policies published by the Trace and Scary Mommy last fall and used by activists who pushed for fewer drills. Let's see. Okay, so this list, if we look at the state of New York, okay. So it says 4 lockdown drills per school year, 2 of which must occur in the first semester. And I guess this for every state. Okay. Did not know that this existed. Okay. I you know what? I don't see every state here. Oh, maybe. Yeah. Some don't require it, guys. Some don't. South Dakota. Which was Wyoming. What else? Nebraska. Massachusetts. Idaho. Colorado. They don't. And Alaska. They do not require a lockdown drill. That's interesting. Okay. Let's go back to the article. It says here, proponents say the drills teach situational awareness from a young age and can save lives. But in recent years, the exercises have drawn criticism for terrifying students rather than empowering them. And a growing contingent of researchers and parents have questioned their efficacy. As we reported last October, active shooter drills can traumatize children who have experienced domestic violence. What about the ones that haven't? Not every child has experienced domestic violence or anything like that. What about the rest of them? It says here, drawn criticism. Who's it drawn criticism from? The company behind America's scariest school shooter drills, the Alice Training Institute, was an early proponent of having teachers and students confront gunmen. There's little evidence its approach works. Well, I tell you what, I would have, if the teachers are prepared to die for the students, which a lot of them are, and God bless them, why wouldn't you give them the best means to protect themselves? Okay, with a gun. I don't understand these people. It's something that it should be a given. A given. It says here, Alice. What does it stand for? Let's see. Okay, so Alice, guys, is a private organization that teaches active shooter training. That is what it does. And it looks like they are pretty lucrative. They make a good amount of money teaching these things. It says here, in one contract, they taught a California school almost $32,000 over 3 years for services. Online training for employees, 2-day training program. So it's not cheap. All right. It isn't it's not a cheap company. But they at least looks like it makes you ready. And I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem that even they make it as real as possible. And you can see, and some of you who are watching this, you saw the pictures of I guess students role playing on the ground. I wouldn't even have a problem if they simulate gunfire. Why not? So you can get used to it. Okay, I would not have a problem with it. Okay, if it is going to help you create as real as a simulation of an active shooter, so you know what to do, I think it's invaluable. It really is. This talks about the efficacy. The Oxford mass shooting shows the limits of hardening schools. A whole bunch of things in here. All right. There's so many things that you can do to harden schools. There's some schools that got automatic locks. There's cameras everywhere. Certain parts of the school can lock down with, with a central hub in terms of security. Definitely metal detectors and a school resource officer, which we saw through the summer of love, where there were so many of these resource officers getting laid off. Hey, we don't need you anymore. Taking police officers out of the school. Why would you do such a thing? All right. And then it says here, guys, if we get back to the article, it says here, the reality is, when you do live drills, you stand the potential of uncovering something that you didn't plan, said David Schoenfeld, a developmental behavior pediatrician at Children's Hospital Los Angeles and the director of National Center of School Crisis and Bereavement. The drills have also been associated with increased anxiety, stress, and depression among children. Studies have shown, Jesus, this is the pussification of children. Okay, children are also resilient. They can be very tough. Okay, and for those quiet children, yes, we will make time for them. Okay, so they too can be strong and resilient. All right, we just don't say, okay, hey, he's panicking, just leave him alone. No, you help them. And you make them understand. These are kids. You have to be the parent. You are the teacher, and you tell them, hey, come on, I'm going to help you. This is going to make you stronger. These are things that you must do. It talks about impacts of school shooter drills on the psychological well-being of American K-12 school communities, a school media study. I would have liked to read this study, but to be honest, all these professors, they come here. It seems sometimes it feels like the more education you are, or you may have, the less and less, the further away of common sense do you have. Sometimes that's how it feels. I don't know about you. Okay, let's continue. And it says here, the reality, I think I've read this part already, says here, under the legislations, schools would be required to provide special accommodations for children with physical or emotional needs, including kids with a history of PTSD. The drills would also have to be age appropriate, and teachers would thoroughly describe the exercise to students in terms they can understand. Lawmakers are also seeking to standardize the drills, which don't have set protocols, leaving teachers to improvise. Okay, did not know that. New York City teacher gets little to no training on lockdown drills. Okay, so now it's little to no training versus they wanted to do 4 in a year, but you want to drop down to 1. Now they talk about the teacher's mental health as well. Man, I tell you, everybody is so vulnerable these days. Okay? The pussification of America. That's what it really should be titled here. Anyway, let us move on. It says here, while the bill sets a minimum of 1 required lockdown drill per year, Gornett said schools can conduct more if they wish. Okay, we're not saying don't prepare kids, he said. We're saying prepare them better. I don't know how you're going to do that if you do it once a year. Okay, a handful of other states have quietly walked back lockdown drill requirements or are considering it. In March, lawmakers in Georgia passed a bill requiring lockdown drills, but schools will only be mandated to conduct 1 per year and parents can opt out. Illinois enacted a law in 2021 ordering schools to provide advance notice of lockdown drills and allow parents to opt out. 2 states, Connecticut and Maine, are considering similar bills. Okay, so I think all of these links are going to talk about all the different types of builds that have introduced. It says bill to require intruder alerts drills in Georgia public schools heads to governor's desk. I don't mind that one. I don't think there's another bill. This is talking about, okay, so there is the history of this bill, current version, past version. Okay, no, this is their Georgia Assembly, and it talks about I guess this is things that are passed and aren't passed. Okay, and then updates. So, and then we looked at this link. It says Illinois HB 2400 now requires notification of lockdown drills. Okay, I don't think I wouldn't mind either a notification so that I know that the drill is going on. I wouldn't mind that if, as a parent. Okay, here's another one. It says from Connecticut. Okay, HB 6846. Lots of bills, a lot of legislation being passed on this. An act concerning the implementation of crisis response drills in public schools to reduce the number and revise the manner in which crisis response drills are conducted in public school in the state. I wonder, since this is so heavily focused on public schools, wonder what the private schools do. Okay, a lot of legislation here. Okay, what we're seeing now. If we get back to the article, it says the impetus for the New York legislation came from two fathers in New York City who were concerned that so many lockdown drills would traumatize their young children. Marco Poe, 40, and Robert Mertfield, 41, both grew up outside the United States and were disturbed by the country's high rates of gun violence. But it didn't touch them personally until their kindergartners had a lockdown drill last fall that left them feeling fearful and confused. As fathers, you're supposed to guide them through this, boss, and tell them the reason why this is important. And even when they cry, you let them cry, and then once those tears are dried up, you tell them, now go and do it. That's what, where are the hard choices? Where are the hard times? If I continue with this article, it says Pupo said that when he picked up his 5-year-old son from school after a drill, the little boy said his teacher had to lock the doors, close down the windows, and hide because there was a bad guy trying to come into school. Pupo said it soon became clear that his son didn't understand the difference between a drill and a real situation. That's why you're there to explain it to him. Pupo spoke to other parents, including Mertfield, who said their kids had been also terrified. One child had gotten up in the middle of the night to close the windows, fearful of an intruder. I don't have a problem with that, okay? It's good that he's done that. It makes him aware. It makes children aware. I gotta say, when these children are very young, don't we tell them, hey, don't talk to strangers? Don't we do that? Okay, there's some things that we tell them to do and not to do for their own safety. So if he's gotten up, let's say, I wouldn't have a problem if he got up in the middle of the night just to check the door locks. No problem. Okay, it's a good habit to learn. Reading and continue with the article, it says Pupo and Mertfield started looking into the state law. Sorry, guys. Governing lockdown drills. They learned that their kids would have to endure 3 more over the course of the school year, and they couldn't opt out. Using the trace state-by-state breakdown of lockdown drill requirements, they discovered that New York mandated more drills each year than states that had far more shootings. Okay, New York has the 4th lowest rate of gun death, according to the most recent figures from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, and never had a school shooting on the scale of Columbine or Sandy Hook. Texas, where a shooter killed 21 people at an elementary school in Uvalde last year, requires 3 lockdown drills per year, while Florida, where 17 people were killed at a high school in Parkland in 2018, requires only 1. I don't like this comparison, guys. I don't know what they're trying to say. Okay, but we know if we're going to say that these other states have more or higher, let's say, gun school shootings, we can definitely say that New York and some of these other states have more crime. All right. Yeah, I don't know what they're trying to say here, but yeah, it is true, guys. So if you look at the gun, if you look at the gun statistics in terms of how many states, I think California has the most school shootings, and then right behind it is Texas. I believe that's so. Okay. Let's see what else. If we move along, it says here, a few months after the Uvalde shooting, New York City expanded lockdown drills to pre-K programs. Murfield calculated that kids growing up in the 5 boroughs would have to endure 60 lockdown drills between preschool and high school graduation. He and Pupo brought the idea of reducing the number of annual drills to local gun reform groups, which they began enlisting lawmakers to support it. I don't agree with what the parents are doing here. Okay? Uvalde was a sick thing, and those police officers who decided to do nothing, that one police officer who decided she was just going to neglect her duty to serve and protect, it's terrible. It's terrible all the way around. But guys, don't stop your children from preparing for things like this. Okay? It says here, we don't disrespect the safety of kids. That's not the reason why we're putting this forward, Pupo said. The reason we're doing this is because that's not enough research. There's not enough research proving that the lockdown drills work. And a ton of research coming out proving that they're actually creating certain traumas in kids. Gordon, the state senator, was initially skeptical of reducing the amount of lockdown drills given the accelerated pace of shootings in America. But when he compared New York's gun violence toll to other states and began researching the psychological effects of active shooter drills on children, the cost-benefit analysis didn't add up. Right now, there are no standards for how these drills should be implemented. There's no trauma-informed consideration. Gordon said the science is showing us that actually not the right way. Guys, I'm going to say something here, and it is in relevance to the article, but guys, there's so many things that you do in life especially when it comes to prepare in terms of finance payments, to insurance, so many things that you do, okay, day in and day out, and you may never face that crisis. You may never. Think about it this way: you pay car insurance every month, or maybe you pay it every 6 months, depending on how much. Okay, it is, right? And when you do that, it's something that is there just in case. If I practice how to draw my weapon, I may never have to use it, but just in case, I know how. And this is how it has to be in these schools. It is a reality, guys. It is a reality that we must deal with. We cannot bow our heads, okay, and and bury our heads in the sand and say that this is not happening, because it is. Now, I do want to show you, I think I had it somewhere here. Sorry for the brightness, guys. Okay. I believe here it is. Okay. It says here, states with the most school shootings. I think that was already in the links. I probably skipped over it, but this gives us a nice little map from 1970 to 2023. Okay, and it populates all of these school shootings here. Okay, we look at Texas. Okay, Uvalde, of course, they got that on there. Okay, and there's a lot in California, but this really looks like it's happened a lot in the East Coast, right? If we go down here, okay, we can see that California is and does have the most incidents, and then Texas follows. Okay, Illinois, Florida, Michigan. Okay, if we look at, let's say, New York is a little bit up there as well, 64. Okay, and things like this do happen, unfortunately, but the solution is to get what? Less training. The police ask all the time for more training, and I believe they need it. They believe they need it. I would think there is a I believe there is a finite consensus that police officers need to be trained more. I think everybody believes that. All right. If they can train more to keep us safe, okay, what should we be doing as the citizens? As the public that they serve and protect, should we just not do anything? No, that won't work. Okay, we cannot leave it up to the police to protect us. We have to protect ourselves. We have to protect our children. We have to protect our family. So, what does that mean? In my opinion, New York is wrong. New York should not be trying. They should not be trying to limit the number of lockdowns. This is not productive at all. It's a bad thing. But guys, this is what happens when you read these anti-gunners. And this particular lady, Jennifer Mascia, okay, she's always on Twitter, okay, spouting some nonsense. I mean, it is sometimes. One time I accused her of being a bot. Okay, I don't know. She is real, I guess, but whenever I approach her on Twitter, she always has these one-liners. She's always constantly on the other side of the issue, and she's not a very conversational person, but this is her here, and she's not too thrilled about guns, okay? And she always posts stuff like this, but I'm gonna post my reaction to her. Maybe to her article, and maybe she'll say something. Probably not. Okay, she likes to ignore. But guys, what do you think? Do you think not just New York? Do you think other states, should they not be doing this? Or do they shoot themselves in the foot by not practicing, by not getting educated? The very idea of school is to prepare you for overall life. And overall life says things like this happen. You have to be able to deal with it as a functioning adult, and an adult that contributes to society. With that, guys, I'll leave you. Remember, okay, good people always have guns. Good people should have guns. And if good people do nothing, if good men do nothing, there will be no good guys.